Woohoo! Yay! Hi, I'm Kirsten.
Hi, I'm Sam, and we're here to chew the metaphysical fat.
Woohoo! So today we have with us our lovely friend Cenarix. He's up there in Finland. And Cenarix is a wizard and he has lots of flowers, and we love that about him.
We do.
And he's here to tell us his story. So without further ado, here comes Cenarix.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, guys. Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to
Yeah.
have something very, very interesting. Yes.
We're looking forward to it. We like the
I
flowers.
really hope so. And I hope that that it's going to help some people with the awakening process itself. It's not going to do that much, really, but it's just a little bit of a hint giving because awakening or waking up is a process that, in my opinion, is in multiple layers. How do I explain that? Well, the best way to do that is to actually tell my story of awakening, and therefore I can put some points out. In hindsight, there was a lot of connection points and all that stuff, so I'll explain. I'm getting some coffee here. Give me a second. Put this down here that it's not a problem. So anyways, so I'll start with my story, and then I'll just make some pointers along the way. Hope you're all ready for a very strange ride. Keep your arms in the machine at all times. No, not really. Just let your arms wave. Yay. Okay.
We do like a bit of arm waving, but yeah. I mean, why don't you start with how you woke up? Because that's really the meat of it, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. So the point is that for me, it started at a young age. Actually, before that already, but I'll come to that in a second. So let's start in the beginning. I was in my 20s when I actually started with this. And the thing was that it was triggered by money, funny enough. I was at that time already working. I was actually I started working at 16. I was a plumber at that time. Had a little bit of troubles at home. Left home very, very early, so I had to pay the bills at 16. Shit happens. That's just how it is.
It is,
yeah. So it wasn't really easy. Have to pay rent and all the other stuff, and young guy, and a lot of options and things are taken away in that way. But yeah, it is what it is. You just go through with it, and that's just it. The point is that I was in my early 20s when I was starting to think a little bit more about money, and that was particularly about buying some property and all that stuff. And what I noticed was that it was, for some reason, very difficult to get a loan. That's how it all started. So I started to look into the monetary system, and then I ran into some things there that I was like, oh my God, what's going on here? And that's kind of how it started. And I guess that for a lot of people, that process is pretty much the same. Everybody gets triggered by a different thing, a different topic, a different subject. It could be an event in their life that causes this, or something that they finally figure out, whatever the case might be. But there is a little bit of a twist to this, because waking up in that way is one thing, but and of course this differs per person. I understand that, but I think it is very handy, perhaps, for some people that are currently going through the process, that they start to look back. And I'll explain why. When I was 12 years old, I had my first, let me call it, a supernatural experience. I think Samantha actually already heard me talk about this a little bit earlier, about the orange orb. I'm not sure if you can remember that. What happened was that I was going to high school at that age, and it was, I think, October, November, something like that, because it was still dark in the morning. And I was already at the school. It was a big building, and I was at the back side of the building, inside, not outside, but inside on the first floor. And behind the building, there was a field, a grassy field, where they sometimes did some sports and PT stuff and whatnot. And as I was waiting, I had a classmate with me, so there were two of us. And as we were waiting there, I noticed outside this orange light, and it was very small. It was pretty far away, and I was still talking about some stuff, but focusing on the light. And I noticed that it became bigger and closer. It came closer. And I was like, okay, that's funny. I have no idea what that is. I've never seen that before. That's weird. First, I thought it was a helicopter or something like that. But then I noticed that it was there was a smaller outbuilding on the outside of the building that I was standing in. And I noticed that it hovered above the roof of that small outbuilding. So obviously it was not a helicopter. And what happened was that this beach ball sized orb came to a standstill right in front of us. I guessed that there would be something like 30 feet in between us and the orb itself. And what happened was that it split into two orbs and started to twirl around itself. It came together and it just poof, it shot off.
So it was like a UFO.
Well, the thing is that was the thing that came to mind at that time. I was thinking, oh my God, it could be a UFO. And because, yeah, you're 12 years old, you don't know shit. And seeing something like that is like, whoa. The funny thing, however, is that the experience it wasn't a scary thing. You know, it was not a very traumatic experience. I was not afraid or anything like that. I was actually drawn to it. Maybe that sounds a little bit weird, but
no. Did you later go on to find out what it was?
Well, that's a little bit difficult because, of course, when you see something like this, at that moment you're flabbergasted. Like, okay, what did I now experience? What was this? And you have no idea. And I told my mom about it after that happened, and of course she thought I was crazy, and I kind of buried it. I thought, this is too weird to talk about. No one is going to believe me anyways. So I took that along with me for multiple years, not talking about it at all, not telling a soul, until one day I came across this website, which indeed was about UFOs and stuff. And the thing was that on that particular website, there was a whole listing of people, of sightings of these same orbs. And funnily enough, also the color orange predominantly for some reason. And the moment that I saw that, the moment that I was reading through these testimonies, a huge weight felt off my shoulders because I could finally tell myself that, hey, you're not crazy. Because that's what I was thinking, kind of, because, people, how they react and stuff. And this was, of course, so many years ago, so things were a little bit different back then than it is now. Nowadays, people talk
What
more
did your friend? Yeah, what did your friend see it with you as well?
Yeah, he did. The funny thing is that he doesn't want to talk about it. He completely has shut it off. Is maybe semi-traumatized by this event, but I think that has more to do with religion because he's a Christian. Maybe that it's a little bit of a. So no, doesn't want to talk about it. This is what
difficult,
it is.
Isn't it? Because I know I've had things with my sister. I mean, I've had all sorts of weird and wonderful things over the years, and I've had an orb experience when I was younger as well. It wasn't orange, but I do understand that. It's very out of the ordinary, and it's like you're not scared at the time, but then afterwards you think back and you're like, that was a bit weird, you know? You know what I mean? But yeah, I've had experiences where I've seen stuff with my sister, and I'm like, oh, have you seen that thing in the sky? What is it? Is it a helicopter? Just like, because I've seen him a lot now. It's not like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, it's not a helicopter. I was like, oh, it's a bit strange, isn't it? I wonder what it could be. I don't know. Not bothered. Not even questioned. Not even wants to go into that. It's just there's something in the sky. We've seen it. We've acknowledged it. Let's move on. And then that's that. She won't.
Yeah, they shut it off for some reason. Yeah.
I've had the same experience seeing supernatural things with other people, and they're just like, oh, well, yeah. One time, my ex-boyfriend, I was with him, and we saw this light in the woods, and it like flew up over the trees and everything. And I said, did you see that? And he said, you mean where it looked like it flew? And I said, yes. And he said, no, that couldn't have happened like that. Okay, well,
that's how it goes. Yeah. Some people indeed treat it like that, which is weird. But then again, you see that with so many things. It's not just that. It's also mundane things like politics. Yeah. They just that I cannot explain that. Well, you know how that works.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Cognitive dissonance, I think, a lot of that.
Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit.
I agree. A little bit of cognitive dissonance. I also think it's interesting because I've had the same experience with when I see supernatural things. At the time, it's just like, oh, wow, that's kind of interesting. That's kind of different. And then afterwards, I'm like, wow, that was so weird. At the time, it doesn't seem all that strange. People say, weren't you traumatized when you saw those UFOs? No, it was just, I was just standing there.
It depends, I think, on the person, how they handle that. Also in the mind. But I also think that there is a little bit more to that. I mean, I don't like to really say this and use this word, but the NPCs, if you want to call them that, for them, life is really simple. Life is really, really simple because it's all very narrow. So when it comes to these type of things as well, it's just something that even if they get exposed to it, just either we don't want to talk about it, or it didn't happen, or it was just whatever. I don't care, and that's fine. That's fine.
I don't think, just to cut you off, I don't think that it's simple. I just think they have a different perspective, and like you said, a narrower frame of reference. While they're in their own, the thing is, while they're in their own kind of, and I don't use the term NPC because I find it really offensive. Just so anybody knows that. Yeah, I don't. I think it's divisive. But anyway, I think they're in their own bandwidth, so they can't expand their mind enough to kind of move past that. And that's what they do. They get stuck in the routine. It's not that it's simple because they've still got the trials and tribulations. It's just very linear, very straight ahead, very like caught in the headlights. Yeah. They can't expand their conscious awareness to see anything outside of the narrative, basically. But sorry, go on. Just thought I'd put my 10 pence in.
The word bandwidth is the magic word here.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I want to go to right now, because that was an event that happened when I was 12 years old. But that's, of course, not where this story ends. Then we go back to the regular form of awakening, is that once you wake up, and I know that every single individual goes through this process in very similar steps. You figure out one thing, the bubble kind of breaks, it bursts, and oh my God, there's so much more. And you start to binge on subjects, and you get into rabbit holes, and one is deeper than the other and stuff. Everybody goes through that. Once they start with that process. So back to that, that's exactly what I was doing. First it was the monetary system, and then politics and all this other stuff, and then one rabbit hole to the other and all that stuff. And okay, you learn more, you get more awake in that sense. But the thing is that the weirdness doesn't start with orbs. Yeah. One of the other fun things is that all my life I had this strange sensation, like someone is standing behind you and is kind of doing that. Not really loud, not like a really loud snap, but very softly, very gently, just behind your ear. My whole life. And the thing is that I kind of dismissed it, and it's there, but it's, I don't really pay attention to that, and I don't know what it is, blah, 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 whatever. stuff like that. Another thing is that at that age, and still do, of course, is that I love the forest. You guys know that. You see me constantly post stuff about that. Well, yeah, that's because I love it. I love log cabins. I love everything that has to do with nature. Always have, and probably always will, which is a super, super thing. But the thing is that where I am right now, I don't see that as a coincidence. I don't see that as a specific preference. It is something where I have been kind of pushed into.
Yeah.
Pushed is maybe not even the right word, because that's kind of forceful and kind of it's gently. It's like you're on a track that you don't even know that you're on, and that you're kind of guided along the way. And the only reason why I figured that out was that after all these years, I started to look back and I started to connect all those things together, and wow, there is a whole story there. So one of the things is that I always wanted to be in the forest. Now, I'm originally from Holland. I'm a Dutch guy. And Holland, especially,
yes, you are,
is completely packed with houses and factories and all this other stuff. There are no forests. There is only a couple of parks, really. You don't really have any forests anymore. So if you have this dream that oh my God, I would like to be in a forest and all that stuff and live there specifically, or have a certain job that requires you to be in an environment like that, that's technically impossible. That's not going to happen. So here I was in my 20s, completely obsessed with trees, completely obsessed with forests, completely obsessed with log cabins. And then what happens is that I meet someone that lives in a country filled with trees, filled with forest, completely untouched, completely unscathed. What are the odds of that? Yeah. So we eventually get together. I actually moved to this country, live in Finland now, filled with trees, completely perfect. Hey, this is cool. More weird stuff coming up. When we moved the first time, she was already living here, by the way. I moved to her. She was living in a small village back then, and we lived there for a while. And then we moved to closer to Helsinki, so a little bit more to the south. That was mainly to look for job opportunities and all that kind of stuff. And we lived there in that specific spot for about a year. Okay, so what happened there was that it was an apartment complex that was it consisted of 3 big towers, and we were living in one tower with all these apartments on top of each other, and you had 2 towers ahead. The towers were surrounded by a foresty area, like most of the things in here. And she had a big dog at that time, a German Shepherd, which we always were walking around in that area because there was so
I love German Shepherds. Just for the next, sorry to cut you off. Yeah, I've got a half German Shepherd.
Speaking of dogs,
hello.
You want to say hi? Huh? Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes.
We love doggies. We love them.
Love doggies.
I know. So we were walking the dog there constantly, but what happened was that for me, that area was always very pleasant, very welcoming. Literally, when we went there to walk the dog, it was like, yay, I'm coming home.
It was pulling you in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice place, very pleasant, and completely okay.
You felt really at home there, I'm assuming. You felt like you'd gone home. It was nature, it was the mother, it was all of that. Exactly. You were like, yeah, I've arrived.
Now comes the thing, is that for me, it was like that. It was completely perfect, and oh my God, this is great, and all that stuff. It felt great. But my wife, on the other hand, she never felt at ease in that particular area. Never. She actually told me afterwards that she felt unwelcome in that specific area. Yeah,
all
and
right.
she told me even so, and it makes sense now when she looked back, is that she had the sensation that it was like a jealous female. Yeah, it's really strange stuff.
Interesting.
So jealous female that wasn't really accepting her. While on the other hand, for me, it was like, yeah, you need to come in. You need to be here. You need to, take all of this in. And you need to, that's what it felt like. And
You've had the welcome mat rolled out, and your poor wife
literally
has been like, bugger off you. Your poor wife.
Right?
So for me, exactly that was how it felt. But for her, a completely different story. And what happened at some point was that when we were walking the dog, we had the sensation that we were not alone, even though there was not much around. Yeah, there are some animals, of course, but it was a different kind of presence. And what we then at some point started to see is that in the periphery of your eye, you see these shadows moving. So that was the first time that I got into contact with these shadow beings, and they were literally all around. I'm not joking. That's just, it was insane.
So these actual shadow beings, like the shadow men, or are these good shadow beings?
Yeah. No, for me, I never had the feeling that they meant any harm or that it was a negative force of any kind. Never, ever.
You feel like they're neutral?
Yeah, they weren't really doing anything. It's just that they were there, and when you were moving around in the area, they would kind of shift in between you, stand close to you and just be in a distance, not doing much. They were just there, and they were making
like observing, because that's kind of where they lived, or whatever.
Yeah, I guess that they were living there, or how that works. I have no idea, but they were there, and they were there to show it to you. They were there, that was no doubt about that. And I even had it one evening so that we were walking. There was this path that went down a little bit, and we were walking there, and I knew that she and the dog were walking behind me for that little piece. And while we were walking down, I had the sensation that there was someone standing right next to me. Yeah, like literally shoulder to shoulder, bumping into me. Yeah, while I was walking, and it startled me so bad that I was literally just jumped up and was just looking to the side. That what the hell, But there was nothing there. But I knew that it was okay. It was one of those, beings.
What did it want?
I have no idea.
Just to put the frighteners on you, or to say, "Hey, we're here."
Not even that, because like I said, it was not a negative experience. I did not have any feeling of dread or fear or anything negative. It was just, we're here kind of thing.
Like, look, pays attention. Yeah,
it's just, we're here. Hello. Just standing there, but not doing much. So what happened was that after that whole ordeal, we actually moved back to Holland. That was for financial reasons. So we went back to Holland, and I went back to my old job again, and we worked for a couple of years with the intention. Yeah, and roofing.
Okay.
Roofing. And the intention was then to go back to Finland again, but this time buy property instead of doing the whole renting thing. So that's exactly what we did. We worked our asses off in Holland for a couple of years. Got some money. We bought property, and we went back, and that's where we are now. This is the same place. And it even got weirder here. This is just...
Really? I can't believe that at all.
No, wait. So what happened was that, okay, so we move here. What is it? You're going to go to bed?
Yeah.
You're going to go to bed? Okay, come here. Let me just... No. Okay. Say, hey, you want to wave? Quick wave.
Hi!
Shy little girl.
Good night.
Good night. So we moved in here, and the thing was that the property was abandoned for about 10 years.
Okay.
A older man back then living in here, but he couldn't take care of himself so much anymore, so he went to some special home, and the family just sold this place off. It was standing here for about 10 years, completely empty, no person here, until we bought it. And we arrived in the summertime, and it was just a freaking jungle. It was completely filled with all kinds of plants, trees growing all over the place, completely overgrown. Perfect for me. I was totally fine with it. So that was it. It was kind of cool that, okay, we have a property now. We can make a farm, homestead, that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what we've been doing. But the thing is that I was looking at some point for a specific place where I could build a small building for my rabbits, because back then we had a little bit of a company going on for rabbit meat. Because you have to do something in here in rural Finland. There is really, really little to do here. So I was looking for a small spot to do that, and of course everything was overgrown, so it was not that simple. You had to clean up first before you can actually do something. So one day I was standing in the backyard, and we have a very big backyard, I can tell you. And I chose a spot, and okay, I need to clean this up. So I grabbed a shovel, and I grabbed a rake and a couple of other garden tools and all that stuff, and I was just standing there looking at that spot, and okay, where am I going to start? And what happened then changed my life. While I was standing there, looking at this spot, just thinking to myself that, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I had again that feeling that someone was standing next to me. Yeah. But this time, it was not like I was startled by it or anything. I knew it. It was standing right next to me. I had that feeling it was standing right next to me. And I got this feeling like I had a hand on my shoulder. Yeah? That is so weird. That
I mean, it is, but also it's not. But carry on.
yeah, it's never really easy to actually, I kind of get.
Do you feel a bit emotional?
Yeah, because it's like I said, that changed my life, because what happened then was that I was, standing there, and you feel this presence there. And again, I was not afraid. I was not startled. I was just accepting that, okay, there is someone there. I didn't even look at it. I couldn't.
Did you know what it was? Did you know who it was?
I understood later, not at the moment, but I'll come to that. Is that I am standing there, and you get this presence there, and I literally felt like a hand was being put on my shoulders, and what I heard being said to me was that what you are going to do is good. That was the first thing that I heard. And I was like, okay, what's going on? I was not afraid. I was just listening. I was taking it in. I was just standing there like, okay, let's do this. And what happened was that there was a small discussion technically going on that about that what I was going to do was a good thing, because what I was about to do was I was going to clear that land to build something, and it was technically approved, I guess. That's a way of saying it, I guess. And the thing was that at the end of this discussion, the point that was trying to be made was that what I'm going to do here is good, but it's not just for you. It is for everybody. And then it stopped. The presence was gone. So I was completely like, what just happened here? So I told my wife, and of course she, even though she had weird stuff going on herself as well, and what we had in the other place as well, still was kind of like, yeah, sure, I don't really believe that stuff. But for me, that was like, wow, what the hell is this? And after that moment, that same thing started to happen more frequently.
Yeah.
That when you are just out there, and when you are just doing your thing, and when I'm gardening, or when I'm just, I'm chopping firewood, or whatever it might be, as long as I'm in the forest, that presence is there, and it comes to you, and it talks. It wants to have a discussion. It wants to relay information. It wants information from me. It wants to have a dialogue about all these different things. And what it all comes down to is stewardship, but not just stewardship of the land. There is more to that, and that is what I'm trying to link in with the whole awakening thing.
Okay.
Is that when I look back at this moment, at least when I'm standing right now, is that when I look back at the whole trip. So let's say starting from 12 years old, seeing the orbs. In your 20s, God bless you, you start to understand some things that the world is not really as it is. So you start to go through rabbit holes. Then you get an experience like this, like with the presence, the shadow beings, and it's not ending there. It's going beyond that, because there is a lot of stuff going on here. There is orbs all over the place. There is the presence.
Sorry to cut you off, but just to put that into perspective, so we did talk about that with our friend Stephen on Friday, didn't we, Kirsten?
Yes.
And a lot of what people have on this awakening journey, like you said very aptly, you'll just have a series of things and it kind of leads you from one place to the next. And it's like you've been primed your entire life to get to where you're going.
Exactly.
And that just seems to be across the board for everybody who's had the awakening journey. It doesn't matter how you get on the path. Like you said, sometimes it's really mundane. Sometimes it's a massive earth-shattering kind of awakening where something really crazy's happened. But 9 times out of 10 it's like you look into the financial system, you look into ufology, you look into all these different things, and then it leads you on the path. It's like little Hansel and Gretel.
Yeah.
When you're following it back, it's like little breadcrumbs, isn't it, that we're given.
It is very much like that, and that kind of makes me wonder how that indeed is for other people. Of course, you kind of know the route because you see other people go through that process, and they talk about it and they're looking for information. But the thing that I'm, because of my own situation, is that how is that maybe for others? That are they exposed to supernatural phenomenon that helps them along the way? Because that's the way that I see it, is that this stuff doesn't happen for no reason. It is there specifically to trigger you even further, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's different for everybody, isn't it? And it depends on your journey. Like your process of where you're going is going to be completely different. Like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's going to be completely different to somebody else.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is to know that there's more. Like you said, that bandwidth, you're expanding your perception and your mind and your ability to perceive larger amounts of information and larger amounts of reality, essentially.
Yeah, indeed. And indeed, that is different for everybody. But there is a little bit of a but here.
Go on, then.
And the thing is that actually, Stephen from BG Cast posted just a couple of days ago a tweet in which he was kind of explaining one of the primary goals of people like us. And what he said in one of those tweets was that we are here to terraform this planet into a different frequency.
Yes.
He is 100% right about that. That is absolutely correct. Now, this terraforming of frequency, technically, bandwidth, remember, happens in many different ways. Waking up through mundane stuff, waking up through the supernatural, waking up in multiple of those things at the same time, waking up because of maybe listening to a podcast like this or anything else. All of that is the same thing. But there is a but. The but is this. A couple of people, well, it's not just a couple, there's many of them, of course, but in the grand scale of things, it's only a small amount of individuals at this moment, I think, is that these individuals, and I think that's where the supernatural stuff comes in very much, is that they are given a task. That's at least the way that I see it, because I was given a task And the task is indeed terraforming, literally terraforming. But again, you can do that in different ways. The way that it is being proposed to me to do this is that's where the flowers come in. That's where the tree stuff comes in. Is that one of the aspects of how we are being pushed down is food, for example. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything is poisoned. The water that you drink is shit. The food that you eat is shit. GMO crap all over the place, etc., etc. And now, of course, what you see is also that they're trying to tell you that you cannot eat chicken eggs anymore because there is too much poison stuff in there and blah, which is of course all nonsense.
Well, it's maybe not nonsense for factory farm chickens because they're giving them the shit to then feed people.
True. That is true, but I mean,
so it's a truth wrapped in a lie, isn't it? It's like subterfuge.
The stuff that they come up with is definitely poisonous and is definitely not good for you. But the way that they play this is that at this moment they take it so far that they'll tell stories that a person like me, I have chickens, I got backyard chickens, that those eggs are even more dangerous.
It's bullets. Yeah, it's complete bullets.
They don't want you to do that. The same thing with...
Just to stop you there with the chickens. Sorry, I'm just going to cut in there.
Yeah,
so there's a big thing about chickens at the moment. I know Kirsten in the US, they've been really big on that, haven't they? They've been burning them because apparently there's bird flu. Maybe there is. Maybe there probably fucking isn't. Anyway. And then in the UK, they made it where people literally... Sorry, I'm on a roll now. They made it where people literally had to register if they had chickens in their garden. This is what they want to do. They make you register your dog. You've got to have a microchip in your dog. Everything is about control and seeing what is there so they can come in and go, do you know what? We're going to fucking starve you. We're going to burn your chickens. We're going to come up with a bollocks excuse. We know exactly where it is. And it's all about control because if you control the food, you control the people. They did it. Was it Russia? Where they essentially like starved all the people. They took over the farms and then they just starved people. Was it Mussolini or Stalin or something? I can't remember. Was it Stalin? Yeah, that's what they do. It's like war on the people, one-on-one. So go on anyway.
Trying to do something like that again. Oh, and there is so many other things that they're trying to do because this is a multi-spectrum thing. They're trying to attack us on so many fronts. It's just not funny anymore. And so far, they're actually
never funny, really, was it? But
but you know what I mean to say here is that they're pretty successful at it.
Yeah.
Stopped, and it is going to be stopped. That's the beauty of it. And somewhere they actually know this. That's why they're kicking and screaming right now, because they know what's coming. But that still does not mean that you can just sit back and just relax and it's going to be fixed. No. That's not how it works. You have to do something for this. It doesn't.
Because it gets fixed. It gets fixed by us doing something about it. That's the whole point.
Yes.
We all need to. This is the whole point of the awakening process. We all are coming online, and when you run about, it's leading to something, and you've got a task. The people that have come here that I'm in contact with anyway, within this collective community, the reason that we're waking up is one, that we can see the bigger picture, and two, because we've all got little missions that we've been given with each other and individually. And that's the whole point of forming this cohesive community now that we're all kind of dealing, that we're all in, especially kind of like with the internet and all that. It's got its pros and its cons, but it's brought us all together, hasn't it, really? So we can have this conversation, so we can get the message out.
I think that is the whole point of all of this. When I look back in hindsight, it's all connected. It's all connected. All of the little steps along the way. Me ending up all the way from Holland, all the way in here, amongst my trees that I love so much, and everything in between. It is all just a little push here and a little nudge there and a little tweak there, and ta-da, you end up in there. But why do you end up in there? There is a reason for that. I found that reason in here because it was told to me. Literally. It was told to me.
You're lucky, because most people don't get that.
I'm not so sure about that. But
not directly. I think you're giving nudges, aren't you? You're giving nudges. My guys give me a few little bits. I mean, they've been a bit more forthcoming, aren't they, Kirsten?
Yeah.
And to be honest, sometimes I want Sun to piss off laughing at it. Yeah, but go on anyway. Sorry.
So the task that is well, for me at least, for me, is within the food section. That is on the outside. If you look at it, if any normie would see my stuff, it's about flowers and trees. Yeah, and later on it's going to be about the vegetables again because we're growing stuff again. For a normie, that's just it. That's the thing. But there is a deeper thing to this. There is a deeper meaning of this, and that is, for example, what Project Avalon, for example, is about. Is that the whole point of this is to change the minds of people. But how do you do that? How do you get people to be? Because keep in mind that when a person makes a choice, that, for example, that, okay, well, I know that there is eggs in a store that come from a factory farm, which might not be so healthy, but my neighbor, he has chickens or she has chickens, and those eggs are super good. I'm going to buy those. If you make that choice, you change the frequency. You change the bandwidth for yourself and everybody around you in close proximity.
You're reprogramming the structures, aren't you? You're reprogramming the matrix, essentially.
What that is, yes. So the task that I was asked to do is to do exactly that and start really, really small, but technically grow. Literally grow as far as you can. That's a big thing to be asked. That's a very big thing to just get it shoved down that, hey, you're going to do this and you're going to complete this stuff. Yeah, but this is a lifelong commitment. Get at it. That's technically what it is right now. And that is completely fine. That is completely fine. I'm okay with that.
We're both aware of that, aren't we, Kirsten?
We are.
It's a lifelong commitment. Yeah, we're pretty aware of that. Go on, Kirsten. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I mean, this is where we're at. I think this is happening to a lot of us as we get more into this awakening. People, it's like, oh no, this is what you're going to do, and you're here to do this. You already agreed to do this before you came here, so deal with it.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Stop your belly aching. And they're like, well, you can have a meltdown, but we're just going to laugh at you, and then you've got to get on with it. So kind of what happens.
I know exactly what that feels like.
We're strong.
Yeah, I know. I have my struggles every now and then, and I actually tweeted about that just a couple of days ago. That it's not easy, and things are not made easy, and it's not just outside forces that are trying to do stuff or trying to manipulate you. Sometimes it's also herself. I can tell you that, and she does that on purpose.
So who is she? That's what I want to know.
Who is she? Yeah. I guess that for people to understand this, people know this force. It's definitely a woman. It's definitely a female. They know her better probably as Gaia, Sophia, the divine feminine. There is so many names and so many things.
It's the goddess, isn't it? It's the essence of the goddess.
It is the goddess. It's life itself. It's life itself.
Yeah.
And that force is very, very benevolent. There is, I just cannot get over that.
I want to cry now as you're saying that. Yeah, she's so full of love.
She really is. It is the most beautiful thing ever. I cannot that, and like I said, lifelong commitment, absolutely, in it the whole way. And yes, I'll probably kick and scream at some points and stuff, but hey, that's just what it is. But I'm in it, and I have a task to do, as many other people, I guess. And that's what we're here
Cenarix, I wanted to ask you who was tapping you on the shoulder? Was that the goddess, or
was her.
because I live in the forest as well, and I experience that I have divas who live here, and they are sort of the overarching spirit protectors of this area.
Mhm.
And they they don't talk to me directly, but they do whisper to me quite a bit. And I was wondering if that was that who was tapping you on the shoulder, or was that really the goddess, just
No,
straight up the goddess?
the lady. That was the lady herself.
All right.
The thing is that I can tell you that as well. Is that this place is filled with stuff. Yeah, and I'm not talking about animals. There is a whole lot of stuff going on here. I mean, seriously. Like I said, there is orb stuff flying around here. There is shadow beings here. There is, I would say, indeed, just like what you call them, those divas. There are these spirits
like nature spirits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who are
elementals.
around, and they do not exactly elementals. They do nudge you, and they poke you and stuff, and sometimes a little bit in a mischievous way. They're not always very friendly. I should know.
Yeah.
There is also, we talked about that. The fairy folk.
Yeah.
That is not a joke. That is
No.
a real thing. I know that people.
No, it's not. It's not a joke at all.
It is.
A lot of people are just like,
a real
yeah,
thing.
no. Yes, they are.
Yes,
Portals,
they are.
isn't there? That's the thing.
One of the things that is kind of negative, and luckily it happens very, very rarely, is the children. I'm not sure if you have heard of that. Yeah, the children. For example,
It sounds like some kind of like folklore. Yeah, I'm not.
No, it's not folklore. At least it is folklore. I mean, if you look at Irish folklore, for example, or even Scottish, you have similar stories about that kind of stuff. One of my friends from Scotland, for example, I was talking about the children exactly, and she was immediately telling me that, the changelings. That's what they call them in there, changelings.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the children, they are described as elvish fairy folk, sometimes with some goblin-like features. Those are they come in very different shapes and sizes. It's fairy is actually maybe not even the correct wording for it, because there is a whole plethora of types. But anyways, so the children, they're not nice. What that is that when you are in the woods, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're just hiking or cutting wood or whatever, it doesn't matter. When it comes to you, is that in the distance, you can hear laughing. Children laughing. Just laughing. Very erratic laughter. Really, really strange. And of course, people have the tendency to kind of think that, what's that? And they might want to go there to check it out. Now,
And they're luring them in.
Yeah.
Exactly. We have that.
Yeah.
We have that here, and I know for a fact, because I know this property now pretty well, that there is nothing around here that even has children, except for the one that I have. There are no kids here. So when you hear that, you know that, okay, that's kind of weird, especially when it comes from deep in the woods instead of where the road is. Whenever you hear this, do not approach that. Please, don't do that.
Go in the opposite direction.
Yes.
That's true. We have that here too, and I've heard that. I've actually heard that in my woods. We call it the little man in this area. They call it the little men, but it's the same thing. And it's really interesting because I really do think that the forest itself is really a place, wherever it is, anywhere.
Yeah.
It's really a supernatural sort of place. Once you live in the forest, you realize we really don't know what's all in the forest. When people tell me that we know everything that's happening in the forest.
Oh, no, we don't.
Like, yeah, you have never lived in the forest, or you would not see that.
Exactly. And that's very, very true. Now, the forest is And it doesn't really matter where you are. It doesn't even matter in what country you are. A forest is, it's about frequency. Again, it's all about frequency. It is the same no matter where you are, and therefore on that same bandwidth, like Samantha was saying, you have the same type of individuals and same type of creatures, and all of that stuff is just there. It's all over. Now, I don't know for sure if it is exactly the same beings. It could be others. I don't know how big that is because, yeah, I don't traverse in that area so much. Thank you. It's not a very nice place, I think. But it is everywhere. That's why you have folklore in Ireland or Scotland talking about these same things.
Or even England, it's endemic in anywhere. It's in the very fabric of society. When you go down to basics, I've got some Irish ancestry as well, and it's just in it all. But especially like the tales from Ireland, I do really resonate with that. But it's quite a magical place, is Ireland, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, but why is that? Why is that? I guess the answer to that is very simple. Ireland is still a very open-spaced area where people actually do respect certain places, unlike in other countries where they just pave a road over it, or there is, for example, in Sweden, there is this huge rock that is said to be housing elves. Now, the government takes that very serious, that if they build a road, they go around it. They don't touch the rock because they're too afraid of bad luck and all that kind of stuff. It is in places like that where it is respected that it stays and that it's more prevalent and that you actually experience it when you are open enough for it. If you have any regular person, if I would grab just a random person from the street and I would drag them out here and put them in the forest, it is very likely that they don't register that stuff. Why?
Because they've switched it off.
Exactly. Again,
that's the problem. Yeah. So sorry, I'm cutting you off there. But it goes back to like when you're so immersed in society. I mean, Stephen was talking about this, wasn't he? There's like the natural world, the natural Maya. And we come in this natural Maya, which is the illusion. Like it is illusionary, but it's also an organic illusion. Like it's meant to be here. And we learn and we grow and we're a natural resonance with it. And then there's the fake Maya, which is like an illusion within an illusion that taps your consciousness, which is the fake matrix control system. It's like the buildings and everything like that. We're not in harmony. And I really agree with you there. We're not in harmony. And when you go back to the forest and back to building within nature and listening to the mother, because I call her the mother, and working with her and all her creations in a synergistic and respectful way, that's when you reintroduce to magic, basically, because that's what magic is. Magic is the natural world. Exactly. You can't convince me any way. That's just my interpretation of it. We can talk about occult magic and all the rest of it, but essentially it's the force that is prevalent within all of us. It's prevalent within the very earth that we walk on. And when we're in that natural state and it's not subverted and it's not distorted, that's when real magic kind of occurs.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And that is exactly how that works. Is that, just like what Kirsten was saying earlier, is that any person that doesn't experience this and kind of tells about these things like, that's just nonsense and all this stuff, they have never been into a forest. They don't know. They have not experienced yet. Even though if you would take them out to the forest, most of them would not register it, purely because they are so on a different frequency, on a different band, that it's not there. Maybe with a little bit of pushing and prodding from her side, that can be overcome. That was the same thing for me, because I come from Amsterdam. Hey, I am a city dweller originally. I was an atheist for a good 30 plus years. Yeah, I didn't believe in any of that stuff. I was purely into evolution and science and all that kind of crap.
And then you got your pants pulled down and your bum smacked.
Yeah,
As we all do.
in a very not a nasty way. It was actually
No.
but it was.
But it's a shock, isn't it? It's a shock.
Yeah, it is. Now it's
even if you're awake and you have all these experiences, I think when you have that pivotal moment, when the big crash comes, it's still really uncomfortable. It's a bit like, oh my God, because it completely shifts your but it's a paradigm shift, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Because then you finally understand that life that you lead, that you live in, that you work in, and then you go to your job and you pay taxes and you do all that mundane crap, and when you come home, I'm gonna sit behind a computer and do God knows what, or watch Netflix. That's the walls around that just fly away, and then you'll figure out that, oh hey, there's things like elves and there's fairies and shadow people right there, and oh, the mother is there and she's talking to me, it's just it's over. Life is never going to be the same anymore because it can't. It can't.
Yeah,
that's right.
You cannot unheard. It doesn't.
You can't.
No.
I had my experience with the mother. So I've had quite a few experiences, but the big one was I did a mother wound ceremony, and I gave her an offering, and it was this big shamanic ceremony thing that I'd done, and ever since then, it was like I'd got this really intense connection with her. And I remember I'd had this kind of like a couple of days later, I was sat in the garden. I was living with my dad at the time, and he'd got all these big trees in the garden, and I looked and I could see the auric field around all the trees. It had like a golden glow.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, it's real. And that was like, yeah. And ever since then, it's just been like, I loved her, yeah.
Yeah, that's something, huh? That's really something.
I do think the more time people spend in nature, the more they become open and expanded to that. I think if the average person just went out in the woods every day for an hour or so, they would eventually begin to expand in ways that they didn't even recognize at first.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think John Vivanco talked about something like that in his book, The Time Between the Secret Work. We love John Vivanco, don't we?
We love him.
We do, we really love him. We think he's great. And he talks about like your mind in a built structure, say like a house. Mm-hmm. It's not a natural structure because it's straight lines essentially. And you're shoving your consciousness in this really unnatural kind of state. But when you go into nature, and nature goes in curves and it's untamed, it then starts to expand your consciousness because your consciousness is essentially aligning with it. So that's why when you move out of the city and you get into nature, you're reprogramming your brain essentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed.
That makes total sense.
Like I said, I've been an atheist for a good 30 plus years. Now, saying that I was an atheist does not mean that I am a religious person. Don't get me wrong here. I don't do religion.
We don't.
Nah, it's not a thing for me. It's just it doesn't work. But, however, that being said, after moving from the city in here, and you witness firsthand what nature does, how it works, how it performs in all seasons. In Holland, for example, winter is non-existent. It's like you have like -2 degrees, maybe, very little snow. It's nothing. In here, it's a completely different ball game. Half of the year, everything here is snow and ice. Yeah. Like feet thick and all that stuff. But anyways, by actually going through that cycle, winter and fall, and really being in the smack dab middle of it, being rubbed in with your nose, that take a sniff. That's the moment when, at least for me, and I think that would count for so many other people as well, is that when you actually pay attention, when you get the chance to pay attention, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Then you'll finally see that, wait a minute, there is a little bit more going on, because this stuff cannot just work the way that it does just by itself, just by happenstance, just by chance. Yeah, it's just, it's like that. No. There is design there. There is
Yeah.
there. There is
There's a theory. It's Paley's theory, isn't it? Paley's theory of design. That everything's so intricate that it couldn't just happen by accident, because that's kind of what we're told. It's like, this is the material world. There's nothing above the material world. This has just happened because loads of hot things come together and it made this big bang. And it's like, no, there's intelligent design.
Absolutely.
And it has to be. I mean, who was it? One of those scientists that was talking one time about evolution and about people coming into being, said, expecting that you would just take some molecules and they would randomly become human beings is like thinking that you could take an encyclopedia and cut it up into tiny little pieces and fling it out of an airplane and then come down and find the whole encyclopedia.
Yeah, that doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really make any sense. And the thing is that once you indeed stand there and you go through the cycles, you understand that full well that, okay, it's not going to work like that. There is design. There is an intelligence behind that forms all of the things, and that is, it's clear. It's clear as crystal. That's cannot get around.
And that's, you make a really good point about the cycles, and that's another thing. Kind of when you're on any path, so I'm very aligned with the shamanic path, which is all to do with the earth, nature, her cycles, the goddess, obviously. And the more you go along that, the more you see that we've become divorced from the cycles of nature, and this is part of the problem as well, which is why I think we're so sick and we're not in alignment with the earth. Because when you eat seasonally, when you move with the seasons, your body naturally wants to align with the earth and what's going on. That's how we're programmed. And when we're putting these jobs, like you said, we're shoved in in offices under fluorescent lights, and we're not out and we're not interacting with what we should be doing. We become switched off from that. We don't know what the cycles are, and that confuses the body. Because the body wasn't designed to be in that situation. It's like an alien environment.
It is. And that's why it's done. That's why it's done on purpose, to keep you in that alien environment, by parasites, by the way, that do that. Yeah.
Yes.
We agree.
We agree.
To dumb you down, to keep you down, and eventually, if they get their way, just destroy us. Because that's technically what all of that is about. They hate life. They hate life. They hate her.
Well, we're food, aren't we? That's the thing. Whether it's energetic food or whether you want to go into the reptilian side of things and be actual foods, but we'll leave that for another day.
They call that lushing or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the point, isn't it? Like, to feed their grid, they need our energy base. So it's like a two-pronged thing. So you've got entities that are disconnected from the source, essentially. So they become parasitic. So they need to feed on our negative emotions. So when you're unhappy and you're locked in that cycle and you're, depressed or whatever because you're under a UV light all day, they can feed off you then, and you become weaker and you're easier to manipulate and you're easier to control, essentially.
Yeah. Plus the fact is that if you are kept down like that, yourself, your whole being becomes negative, which is a plus for them because they love negativity. That's what they thrive on. If you're positive, if you're smiling, if you're having fun, it doesn't work for them because they cannot. It doesn't work. It's too opposite. They cannot mingle.
Well, it's love, isn't it? That's what it comes down to. If somebody's coming at you, and it's light-hearted approach, isn't it? I mean, that's why I'm always laughing. That's my excuse. It's not because I'm batshit crazy. I'm a little bit crazy, just a tiny bit. It's this love frequency, isn't it? That's the whole point. If you can hold this high state of awareness, this higher frequency, they can't get in, they can't influence you, and that's what they try to do. So you notice things like thought loops. If you get like a psychic attack from them, what they'll try and do is they'll look at your insecurities and your weaknesses, and they will implant ideas in your head and thoughts. And we've had it, haven't we, Kirsten?
Yes.
So when they're trying to kind of psychically attack you, they'll whisper things in your ear and tell you things about, I don't know, people. So for instance, say your wife does something that really annoys you or whatever. They're like, oh, she's doing it on purpose. To try and get a reaction out and cause an and then but when you get used to that and you know what they are, you know your own mind. That's the whole point of doing the healing. You go, well, not me. I wouldn't think that. My wife just does that anyway. She's not doing it to deliberately annoy me. That's just what she does. Go away, essentially.
Yeah.
What I find is that, but maybe it's different for me. Maybe it's the place or the way that I have my contact with her is that it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
How do I describe that? It is like if I want to know something, sometimes it's even so that I'm just minding my business. I'm just standing out there in the forest, and I'm doing something. It's just like she yanks my ear, like, hey, you need to pay attention to this now. You need to look. Come here. It is so strong here that if I want to know something, if I'm bothered by something, or I just want to know, and sometimes she does it on her own, is that it's instant. It's instant. It's crazy. I had, for example, when the COVID thing happened, for example, you had a lot of these supply problems. Yeah, that medicine was not in stores enough, and food became a problem a little bit here and there, and all that stuff. And because of my work as a plumber and a roofer, I have been inhaling stuff my whole life that is really not healthy. So I'm a little bit of asthmatic because of that stuff. And every once in a while, depends a little bit on what I'm doing, I have to use some stupid puffy thingy to get rid of that stuff. Happens every once in a while. But during this COVID period, there was a shortage in medical things. And I was just one morning sitting with my coffee thinking about this, that, okay, well, medicine is maybe not in the store and all that stuff. Well, what about those thingies? What if you would really, really need that and you cannot get it? Is there a normal, natural way to do that? And I was just saying that, but maybe this and that, blah, blah, blah. And the moment that I uttered those words, I get this beautiful picture in my mind. This beautiful picture. And it was a stem, a huge stem with all these pretty yellow flowers. Yellow is very important, by the way. That's why I'm wearing this. Yellow flowers. And I was like, wow, I've never seen that before. I don't know what that is. But the picture was there. And the picture was really, really clear. So what I did was, okay, I'm going to find out about that. So I found out that it was mullein. I never heard of mullein. I never seen the plant before. I had no idea that it existed. And apparently it does wonders for the respiratory tract, etc., etc. So I just asked, and immediately, just like that, you get something given to you. And this can be an image. It can be words. It can be what I also get, for example, is that because of Project Avalon, we make huge gardens, like huge. And this requires a lot of planning and all that stuff. And what she then does is that while I'm doing stuff, she comes to me and she inserts stuff. She changes it in real time while I'm doing stuff. And how she does it is that she shows me that, okay, what you're now doing, it needs to be changed to this, or it needs to go there, or you need to actually take these type of flowers, it is just bizarre, the contact in the way that goes. It
seems very intense.
It is, but in a good way. It's not.
No. That's what I mean. But it's very kind of, like you said, it's very close, isn't it? I mean, it's beautiful that you've got that relationship and also that trust, because she's giving you what you need. And almost like when you were on about, is it the mullein? If I pronounce that right? Yeah. This is the thing. Nature has the answer to every problem that we have.
That does.
And that's the thing. So essentially, you're becoming a bit of a botanist, aren't you? and a bit of a, what's the word? Herbalist. Yeah.
We have no
It's
choice.
really true.
Now, the thing is that as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, then, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I've got mullein. It grows everywhere around here. I have, in fact, I make tisans out of it all the time. I've got a ton of it.
Okay, oh, that's cool. That's
Wild.
nice.
I mean, you can just walk out in the yard and pick it. It's like there it
No,
is.
we don't have it here, so we have to kind of grow it ourselves because otherwise.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Too far away.
That is interesting. So,
Yeah.
just tell us a bit about Project Avalon. What is it, and what are you trying to do with it?
The thing with that is that, like I said, I was asked. I actually don't have any choice in the matter. That's the way I feel about it a little bit. But I was asked to take food as a subject to kind of go forward with. And the whole point of that is that, okay, because of the capabilities that we have here, because of the land that we have, is to show people, especially with all this weird stuff going on with COVID and all the other stunts that they pull, and telling you that you cannot eat your eggs anymore because, dangerous, blah, 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 is that to show the normies, at least, that, okay, there are alternatives, you can do it better. The story behind it, that the normie might not get immediately, but eventually will, that's what Stephen was saying, the terraforming is so important, because that's exactly what it is that by giving these people the alternative, by showing them a different way of doing it, not the massive factory farming stuff, none of the big agricultural things, but just normal small homesteading practices, is that if you change their mind, if they make the choice that, you know what, I'm going to do this, you change their frequency, you change the frequency of people around them. And if you push this out, it's going to be bigger, and it expands and it changes the whole set. And this is just a small bit, of course. There's so many other things that tie into that, and other people that tie into that. It's not just this, of course. I get that. And that's
the land that you have is magical, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Even though I complain a lot about the ice and snow, even though I do know that it has a function, it's there for a reason, even though it's sometimes annoying for me, it is paradise. This is paradise. Because you have it all. It's all here. All the seasons, and in all the dramatic shapes and forms, it's all here. You get the full palette. You get the full taste of all. It's wonderful.
Is part of your mission, buddy, I forgot how to pronounce your name now. Anyway, yeah, that's the one. Is part of your mission teaching as well?
Yes, it is. It is. What we're currently doing is that, apart from our own gardens that we're trying to build up, is that we try to have projects elsewhere. For example, think of a school that you give the kids a special garden that they can grow their own stuff in, so that they learn how things grow, how nature works, and how they can do things themselves, and you get food to boot. What is better than that?
Right.
We have, for example, not so far away from here, there was an old building that used to be a store of some sort in the 50s. That was abandoned, was completely empty, and the owner just wanted to get rid of it. So what the villagers here did was that they bought the place for a couple of dimes, really. And they're trying to change that stuff and make it into a community center, which is super. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the backyard of that place, which is also huge, into a garden with food. And the whole point of that is that to show the villagers themselves, because even though this is an agricultural area, rural, very little people actually grow food themselves in here. They are very unfamiliar with it, which is kind of weird, but yeah, that's just how it is.
That's a generational programming, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Which is coming back to the teaching thing, like going back to the children's day. We've been especially told the whole point of the whole mission and the things that we're here to do is for the next generation.
Yeah.
So we're here to essentially instill those skills and the foundational knowledge for them to take it forward. Yeah, and that's what's going to terraform the earth.
Yeah. So by doing projects like that, that you kind of expand it outwards. It's not just here, because the fact of the matter is that if I make pictures of my own garden and show the stuff on Twitter, that's all fun and games, but that doesn't take it further. It needs to go further. It needs to go into a real life scenario with real life consequences. So you need to be out there in the real world and expand. You need to grow, literally grow, take it further. So we do all of these projects, and there is way more coming. And all of that is all tied into Avalon, because Avalon is not just this garden, it's everywhere. If you grow food in your garden, if you have one, or a balcony, or you have whatever that might be, you are part of Project Avalon. It's the same thing. Because remember, it's that same bandwidth, it's that same frequency, just like the forests, and you have fairies there and you have fairies there. It works exactly the same way.
And that's the goddess coming back, isn't it? That's the thing.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what we're all here to do. That's what me and Kirsten are here to do, just in different ways.
Exactly.
It's all about
requires-
anchoring that goddess frequency. And
Exactly. It requires a lot of different aspects. What I do is just a sliver of what is necessary to be done, but it needs to be done nonetheless, and not just by me. There is plenty of people that have a very similar. That I think you've noticed that sometimes when I tweet, I put the number 1,000 in a tweet. I'm not sure if you've seen that. There is a reason why I do that, because like me, there is about 1,000 individuals that follow exactly the same thing all over the planet. We all have the same thing. We have the same connection to her. Not a lot of people know that, by the way. So now you do.
that's really interesting. Do you mean in the way that you've come to do the garden, Avalon?
Yeah. Project Avalon, the same idea. Someone else might not call it Project Avalon. The reason why I call it Project Avalon is actually because that was a hint from her. And that has to do with the mythology of Arthur, because of Avalon being in the lake. And she has a very strong tie to water, though, stronger than most of the other things, what I can tell at least. So that's why she kind of prompted that to be used. So, okay, I obey. I'll just put it out there. But that might be different for someone else in a different location, but the end goal is the same. And from what I understand is that with this particular thing, there is about 1,000 individuals scattered all over that are trying to do the same thing. And that's why I put it out there.
The thousands. Yeah.
And maybe someone out there might get the hint as well that, oh, hey, wait, there is one of those. I'm not sure if that is really working, but I can only try, right?
That's right.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? You're getting the message out, and this is kind of why Kirsten and I are doing this podcast. Sorry, Kirsten, stepping over you again. It's to give people like you a platform to share the information that needs to get out there. And we're all kind of missionaries in a way, aren't we?
Yeah.
And especially kind of around, I mean, I call her the goddess, because I think there's lots of different iterations of her. But we're all here essentially to serve her in one way or another, aren't we? Whether that's here to, do something with the food, whether it's here to spread the word, whether it's here to do things with like sacred sexual healing, whatever. However, we're here to connect with her. That's the thing, because there's a shift happening on the planet right now, and we're moving polarities from the masculine back to the feminine. And it's the goddess's time again to rise.
Oh yeah.
And we're all here to anchor in and bring through that knowledge and spread that information.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
The way that you could see it is kind of like we are kind of being bottlenecked. I think that's a very good way of kind of looking at this, is that we are now at that moment where we are going into that bottleneck. Because what is happening right now is that people like yourselves, me, and many, many others are going to be combined in one way or another, and she'll find a way to get you together. she is really skilled at that, trust me, is that you're getting funneled in to all combine, all come together, so that once it is enough and once everybody is doing their thing and everybody is just, connecting with one another so we can spread it a little bit further, at some point you're going to pop out of that bottleneck. Boom. New reality. That's what's happening. That is what's going
And
to
you've
happen.
been told that we know. It's amazing. That's exactly what we're here to do. We're in the birth canal. We're in the birth canal.
Yeah. In a way.
But it is about those connections. Go on, Kirsten. What were you going to say, my love?
I was just agreeing with you. Yeah. You said it perfectly. The birth canal. Here we are. Woo!
That's why this podcast is also here, because of the same way that this works. People being brought together. It's not an accident. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. Not even me seeing people like you guys on Twitter. It's there for a reason. And also keep in mind that for me personally, social media is technically a no-no. I have been on Facebook many years ago for only a little while, and then I got kind of sick with it that this shit is not for me. Haven't been on social media ever since because I actually don't really care. I don't. I just it's annoying. It's just, it does have its purposes and good things, of course, duh. And that's exactly what happened to me. Like, I'm on Twitter now for 2 years now, I guess. That I got kind of spurred that, okay, well, maybe you need to, go out there and show some things and bring it out a little, because otherwise it's just not so gonna work.
It's a different way, isn't it, to spread the message and to connect. And I think it's using it with intention. I can't really be on Facebook because the energy is too wonky for me. I feel it as soon as I go on. I'm like, because I'm quite energetic. Yeah, anybody who's energetically sensitive is just like, fuck that shit. I'm not even going there. Twitter is getting a little bit like that for me as well. I'm not going to lie. I'm finding it more and more difficult to be on there just because of the change in the energies. I think there's been a bit of a shift.
Keep in mind, please, because what you're doing is the right thing, and you're doing that because she wants that. Keep in mind that that energy shift that you see and sense right now on Twitter is also not an accident, because keep in mind that just as much as we are doing our thing, they are also doing their thing. And unlike us, because we do have to sleep and we do have to do other stuff, those guys work 24 hours a day. Without break, without rest. Yeah? They are busy every waking moment. So if we do our thing, and it's very noticeable because, people are connecting, people are coming together, people are hearing the message from different points of view and different subjects and all that stuff, they notice that. They know it. They know it.
Who is they? So who do you mean by they? I've had a channel about this, but go on, you tell me.
Well, I always call them the parasites.
Right, okay, yeah. Just so we're on the same.
It is a force of, I would say, unnatural beings that are very much here. It's not a force that is somewhere far away. They're right under your nose. They're right here.
It's the anti-polarity, isn't it? Because we're in a dualistic world, and that's the thing. When you have one, you've got to have the other.
What I call them is the forces of anti-life, because they hate life. They hate life. They literally hate life. They would love to see only death and destruction. And they're here. They're here, not so much in the physical, even though they can be under certain circumstances. That's why
the astral people, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's why you have regular human beings doing their work for them. Yeah, that's the politicians and all that kind of crap that you see running around. because they do need that. They do need individuals like that to be able to perform certain things.
Yeah.
They can do things, yes, but it's only to a certain extent.
They're not incarnated, and that's the problem. So this is kind of what we've been told. We've come into this physical reality as boots on the ground, essentially. But this isn't what we are. This is just an expression. We're not a body with a soul, we're a soul with a body, essentially. But we've had to condense our consciousness, or a part of our consciousness, and all of it, into this physical reality to be able to bring through that higher wisdom and energy and anchor it in, because this is all part of the plan as well. This isn't it, and that's the thing.
No.
There's other entities that are on the opposite side of that. When you move out of polarity, it's all the same, all of the same. But essentially in this realm, because it's a battle that we're in at the moment, like a spiritual war, they have got people physically incarnated here, and they are also not incarnated here as well. And it's the same on both sides. This is what I mean by like a battle.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it's I mean, this is imagine how it is, or it must be, for a person that just pops into all of this stuff. Yeah, I mean, how weird is all of this stuff?
I mean, if somebody just watches this and they've come from like TV, they're going to be like, "What's they on about?"
Nah, they can't. They can't register that. So no, it doesn't work.
I remember even like maybe going back about 6 years ago though, and there were certain things that I'd hear and I'd be like, "Oh, I mean, I'm open, but maybe that's a bit weird. I don't know if I can quite get my head on that." And now I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. Tell me anything. You're not going to shock me. Go for it."
It's true. I feel the same way. It's true.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is a good side effect of having a lot of supernatural things happening is that whenever someone comes to me with a story about, and it doesn't matter what it is, they can tell me that, "Oh, I saw a dragon." Yeah, I am not going to dismiss that. I'm not going to tell them, "Ah, you're nuts, you're crazy." No, because how can I, as a person that has so many experiences with weird stuff, how can I tell someone that, that's bullshit? I don't believe that. No, I can't. I just can't. I have to look into it. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What crazy story you come up with, and that is such a helpful tool when it comes to navigating rabbit holes and different subjects that you stumble upon, no matter how strange or weird they are. And we all know some really sick shit out there. Yeah. So, and the first time that you come across these subjects, it's like, whoa, what the hell is this? Do I really want to step into this? Do I really want to? Because this sounds really strange. I can imagine that for a person that has not seen or experienced a lot of weird stuff, that is okay. That's where I draw the line. I'm not going to go there, because
I think it makes them crack. That's the problem, isn't it? This is the thing with waking people up. This is why we're on this incremental process. So we do it bit by bit, like you were on about, like the breadcrumbs, because we have to. I mean, sometimes we don't. We do crack open. I had a Kundalini awakening, and it gave me psychosis for about a year, actually, if I'm honest. But whatever. I was absolutely off my fucking ringer, I'll be honest. I was having all sorts of stuff going on, and it absolutely ruined my life. But it didn't, actually. What it did was, these things happen and they change us, don't they? And then they put us on a different path. I couldn't do nursing anymore. I couldn't be with people anymore. I couldn't go into society anymore. And it became so just, uncomfortable for me. It completely redirected me. But the average person wouldn't be able to kind of, I'm not saying handle it because it's an average person, but I'd done a lot of work to get them and it still kind of ruined me in a way. Do you know what I mean? So you can't expect the average Joe who's going in a 9 to 5, you know, doing his stuff, thinking that all there is this table in front of him and his dinner and it all, you know what I mean? But can't comprehend anything. And then given all this information, it just loses his mind.
That's also the reason why I think that some people automatically, and this is dissonance, of course, is that they immediately just shut it off. So if they can confront it with something that is uncomfortable for the mind, they have to think too much for it to actually understand it. It's just easier to just shut it off, because then it's not there. I can just live my life. I can just do what I want to do. I don't want to, you know. And
like self-protection, almost.
Yeah, it is protection, because otherwise they go cuckoo. Otherwise they go nuts. And on a certain level, I can understand that. I can understand the self-preservation mechanism there. But in another way, it's kind of like you're doing yourself kind of short in that, because there is just so much more out there. And they say that knowledge is pain. Well, maybe just a little bit. I would rather have the knowledge. I would rather know. I would, you know. So,
but that's the difference, though, isn't it? Some people can't, and it's not necessarily bad, because we all come here to serve a purpose, whatever that purpose is. No one person's purpose is better than another, no matter whether you're the King of England or, you know, whether you're a potato farmer. Whatever you're here to do is part of the divine weave, because all of us are a thread in the weave. And no thread is bigger or smaller than the other, because without each thread there wouldn't be a weave, there'd be a hole in it. So that's how I look at it. And each person's journey and each person's, you know, either descent or ascent up the spiral, we've all gone through it at some point. We've all gone on the spiral down and we've all gone on the spiral up, depending on what lives and what things we're here to learn. So I think it comes more down to what's the purpose that they're here. Are they here to experience that, or are they here for something else? And that's why you can't compare to like another person's journey, and you can't go, oh, we need to wake everybody up, because not everybody's meant to wake up, and that's all right. You know, it's just been all right with that.
Yeah, and I've been kind of thinking about that as well. Is that because one of the funny things about waking up, especially in the beginning phase, is that, and I think every single individual has this, is that once they start on their journey, once they finally understand something, they have this feeling that, oh, I need to help everybody. I need to now scream this off the roofs, and I need to tell everybody about this, and I want to help that person. I want to help that person. And after a while, when you realize, or start to realize that, they're not really getting it. They don't want to get it. It becomes frustrating that, why don't they want to listen? And then automatically at some point you go to this phase where you actually don't give a damn anymore. It's like, well, whatever happens to you is going to happen to you. But the thing with the bottlenecking that is happening right now is that once we get out of that, it doesn't matter anymore.
Because we're all right together.
Exactly. It doesn't matter anymore. Even the most normie person that you can think of is going to get there one way or another.
Those that are meant to do will, because we're all going to shift together. Those that want to come with us.
Yeah.
And those that don't split off and they go to wherever they're going to go. But that's all right as well, because they've chose to do that.
Yeah.
We don't have to save it. But I know what you're saying. We don't have to save other people. We just have to save ourselves. And through doing that, doing the work that we came here to do, like you said, it's going to shift everybody, because we all rise together.
Yeah.
That's right. And we're just leading by example. We're not trying to force anybody to do anything.
True.
And that's why we're, because this is a free will universe, and we need to respect everyone's free will. And everyone has the same choices. And if they make a different choice than you make, that's their right to do. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That is just how it works. That's just how it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are the rules. Cannot change
Yeah.
those.
So we're coming up. We've just got to an hour and a half. So I think this is a good place to kind of cap it. But we'd like to have you back on if that's all right at some point.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to leave us with, where people can find you, or any message that you want to?
The only place where people can find me is on Twitter X,
Yeah.
because that's the only place that I am. I just simply refuse, for the moment at least, to be anywhere else. We are currently thinking, however, of making perhaps a website for Project Avalon, because I'm pretty sure people have been looking for this project, but of course they can't find anything about it because it's not that kind of project. It's a little bit more. But I do understand that it needs more exposure, and now is the time for that stuff because it needs to come out. People need to become more aware of it. So we're working on that. That's going to come later. So for now, it's just on X, and it's just at Cenarix. And if you see a tree and a flower, then you know that it's me. So it's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Do I want to leave you with something? Go into the forest and be weird, please. By all means, be weird. Go into the forest. For everybody that is seeing this and listening to this, go to the forest and be weird. Become a wizard. Become a witch. Do something strange. Doesn't matter.
This is why we love you.
Do not listen to the children, though. If you hear them, don't go.
Run away.
On that note, by the way, my Scottish friend that was talking about the changelings, remember when I was saying that? Is that in there it's a little bit different. They say in Scotland that it is so that when you hear a baby cry in the forest, this is a little bit of a creepy story, that if you hear a baby cry in the forest, that you should do the same thing. You should go away. You should not check it out. But people that do check it out will find a child at the trunk of a tree, or sometimes hanging on a branch in some sort of basket or something like that. And then there are no parents, there are no adults around, so then they're kind of trying to take the kid away and do something with it, try to take care of it, whatever, only to figure out when they come home with the child that it's not a child at all.
Yeah, it's something else.
Yeah.
That's when the trouble really starts. So if you hear that stuff, laughing or crying, just go somewhere else.
There you go. Just go somewhere else. So be weird. Go to the forest.
Absolutely.
Don't follow the laughter or the crying.
No, absolutely not. No, unless it's yourself or someone that is close around you, but not somewhere at a distance in the forest. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, go and Kirsten.
So
Take it
thank
down.
you so much for joining us, Cenarix, and we will have you back again. And yes, so if you want to stick around after the thing, we can chat for a moment. But
if you want, sure.
Yeah, we're gonna say bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you
All right,
so
guys.
Thank you for tuning in.
All right, here we go.